Hey everyone, welcome to Mighty Forces. I'm your host, Amanda Hirsch. If you're someone who gives a damn about other people, about the state of the world, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Take a load off, let your hair down, and get ready to go deep. And to get stupid. Because in my experience, the best conversations with the best people share both of these characteristics. Let's start the show. I am buzzing from the conversation that I just had with Philippa Hughes, and which is coincidentally the conversation you're about to hear. So that works out well. Philippa and I haven't talked in a million years, and we just clicked right back into it. And goodness, what a treat it is to be in this woman's orbit. She has an infectious creative energy and really probably has the most interesting career of anyone I've ever met. And I have met people with some really interesting careers. She describes herself as a social sculptor. And it took her a while to find that language, and we'll talk about that as part of today's episode. But social sculptor, and what that means in my language is that she treats as art the practice of creating these really juicy experiences that bring people together. So social experiences, social sculpting, all in service of trying to help people flourish and, make the world a better place, all that junk. But Philippa really does it. She doesn't just talk about it. She doesn't just opine about it. She doesn't just write blog posts about it, although she does have a blog and you should follow it. There'll be a link in the show notes. And she has a book coming out next year about the American dream. We'll talk about that too. And you should read that. But she does it. And that actually is sort of a theme of today's conversation, doing stuff and not just talking about it and thinking about it. And I could just go on and on. I'm just really enthused by the conversation we just had. I'm really excited for you to hear it. I'm really grateful to Philippa for sharing some of her magic with me and with us today. And I'm reminded of a quote. Hafiz, the poet Hafiz, said something, I hope I get this right, stay close to anything that makes you feel alive. Or no, that makes you glad you are alive. And Philippa's bringing that quote up for me. She's making me feel glad I'm alive. And I hope she, and I know, trust, she will do the same for you. Enjoy. Here we are. I'm live, but actually not live, with Philippa Hughes. Philippa, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to reconnect with you.
I know it's been a long, I was trying to think, is it like before I moved away from DC, because that was 2009.
Oh my goodness. I was wondering, I 100% have not seen you since you left DC.
So I left, and then I don't know if you know this, I don't think we reconnected. I had a gap. I call it my DC gap year. We thought we were moving back to DC, and we made it 1 year, and then we left again. So I might not have reconnected with you during my gap year. But I have to tell you, I'm serious. You look exactly the same. I feel like time has stood still. I feel like it's 2009, and we're just having a chat.
Okay. Well, you need new glasses. Every time I look at myself, I'm like, oh, look at those little crow's feet, and the cheeks are like sagging. And
oh my God. Well, that's the curse, right? But I remember once when we had just moved to New York, actually, we had some old friends over for a meal, and I was like staggered because I hadn't seen them in so long, and they looked truly, in my mind, exactly like they had looked in high school. These were people we'd gone to high school with.
But
and I remember...
I wonder if that's like a trick of the mind, because we think, especially if it's like an old friend like that. So yeah, we see the person standing in front of us, but maybe we're seeing the high school friend. Because you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Because I think of myself as still kind of young and vibrant and whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little trick that we're playing on ourselves.
Although I will say I have seen some people and been like, oh my, they've aged.
I was not going to say this, but I will confess, every once in a while, I'll meet somebody, new,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this person seems so old. And then they'll either like be my age or maybe even younger. And maybe it is a little bit like maybe they look older than they actually are. But a lot of it is like just attitudes and
Energy.
energy. Like some people just act old.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It is true. So I think, yeah, there could be something in the mind. I mean, God, the mind is a mystery in terms of memory and all of that. So yes, maybe when we're sort of expecting to see someone and then we see them and our brain just tells us, yep, that's the same. That looks the same as the last time. I don't know. You might be onto something there. And then I do think we read energy too. And so if somebody's, I don't know, energy is the same, then maybe our brain kind of erases the crow's feet or the whatever and is like, no, it's the same person because you just feel the same energy as opposed to somebody who's given in to the decline.
I really believe it because
yeah,
I'm not giving it in.
I'm not either,
fighting
man.
it every inch of the way.
And the decline being like giving up on life for me, it's not like I'm fighting age. I wouldn't say I'm fighting aging every step of the way because that feels a little bit like a fool's errand. But certainly fighting giving up on life, like every day I fight that fight. So, all right. Well, so you are back, what, 12 hours in the country? 14 hours? How many? Less than a day, right? You got back last night?
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't even been here 24 hours, but I'm
very honored.
Well, I am very honored. But I was like, whenever I take any kind of a trip, but it's certainly a long trip, like I'm really like obsessive about getting everything unpacked, put away. Like I need to wake up with everything.
Oh, really?
Organized. And I was like, oh, is that like some kind of OCD thing or something? But like, I cannot have any suitcases in sight.
Well, it's self-care. I think I think I like to do that, but sometimes I give myself permission not to do, like sometimes my husband will be like manically running around unpacking, at the end of an exhausting travel day. And I'm like, God bless you. I'm getting in bed,
Yeah. I was so tired last night. And I was like, nope. I'm going to stay up and get this done.
Did it feel good this morning, though, when you woke up?
Exactly. So I woke up and then this morning felt more leisurely. I had coffee.
Of course. Yeah. And it's like giving a gift. Sometimes I feel like we have to prioritize. Are we making a choice for our present self or our future self? Right? Like, so to be like, it was a long ass day. I'm going to lie my body down and not run around and unpack. That's a gift to like present tense Philippa, right? But then future Philippa wakes up and is like, oh my God, like reminders everywhere of the travel day yesterday. And like, oh, this to-do list is right. Versus the inverse of that.
Yeah, I really like that framing because it's the framing that works for me with like exercise. Like I'm pretty good, like I'm pretty regimented about exercise, but sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to go. But then I remind myself, when you're done, you always feel better that you went to the gym, whatever. So it is, that's a good reminder to always think about like, what are you going to feel like in 24 hours? What your decision today?
Well, and I bring that frame into the work I do helping people tell their stories too, particularly online. Like a lot of people, it's a pain. Social media is a dumpster fire. There's so many reasons not to do it. But then to me, I proselytize. It's a way of exercising power because if you can be known outside the four walls of the organization you work in or what have you by just sharing little breadcrumbs along the journey of like, this is what I'm up to and this is what I'm thinking about, then it's just networking put in a different, but then when it comes time to move on, when you feel you've made it so much easier for yourself. You're not going from 0 to 60 of like, now all of a sudden I shall post online about my work. Right. But people, hate it. They avoid it. Understandably, they don't do it. And then I see it over and over again. They stay at jobs or in situations that they don't like, that aren't serving their needs for much longer than they would need to otherwise. And so like sometimes my most powerful message to a client can be like, you're doing this for future you. Like forecast, it's a year and a half from now, it's 2 years from now, you're miserable where you are. And you're going to be like, thank God, past me left some breadcrumbs and like let people know what the heck I was up to, because it's so much easier to pick that back up. So anyway, that's my little diatribe.
Well, you have literally described my ethos about, how I often tell people, like I say kind of the same thing, I've been doing more speaking, and I have so many threads to pull out of that, because I've been thinking about the book too. But
yes,
one time I had to, I spoke to this class of 10th graders. Ooh. And they're, like life advice, whatever. And so this is when I first started talking about, like, I mean, you might know this already. There's a commencement speech that Steve Jobs gave in 2005. So you're nodding, but I'll just say it out loud for our listeners. And he gave his commencement speech at Stanford, and he basically said, when he looked back, he could see how all the dots connected. And so kind of like, I think his message was like, you got to have faith that the dots will connect to get you to this goal, that whatever this thing is. But then I made my own corollary to this dot theory. And I was thinking, well, the corollary to that is you have to throw out a lot of freaking dots, because you don't know where you don't know how or where or when the dots will connect. And so, and I think that's been my life sort of process, is I just throw out a lot of dots. And then people are like, they think it's like some, magical plan or something that I was like, I got from here to there. But I'm like, no, I can trace back through all these dots that I never even planned. I could not have made those connections on my own, or thoughtfully going forward. But you got to have a lot of dots out there. And then kind of the corollary to the corollary, especially to like teenagers, or, I was teaching at Michigan. So like kind of, college age students, is that like, they were like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do what you're doing. Like, how do I do that? I'm like, I really have no idea how to tell you how to get from where you are to where I am, except kind of like this breadcrumb theory, the dots theory. You have to put out a lot of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Put out a lot of dots, and be interested in a lot of different things too. That was that's the corollary to the corollary to the corollary.
That's like a Russian doll of corollaries here.
Totally, because like, not only do you have to have a lot of dots, but the dots can't all be like in the same pile of, they can't all be wheat bread crumbs,
Right.
White bread and rye bread, because like, that's how things happen, is like the unexpected connections that happen that you cannot possibly, I've never been able to plan ahead like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember hitting a point where in my young adulthood where I was like, oh, I get it. I can't just sit in my apartment and figure it all out. Like, there's no level. I'm not going to spreadsheet my life. Like, I'm not going to analytical, flex my way into my life.
But I will say, like, there's some value in that. I'm not a spreadsheet person, but then I'm like, there is you do need some of that, right? Like,
sure.
But I was just thinking about this one friend she wanted to start her own business, and she spent like a year like making spreadsheets. And I'm like, dude, like, you just need to go and do one thing. Just do one thing while you're making your spreadsheets. Like, you can't.
Yeah, it's yes and. It's yes and.
It's yes, you gotta, all of it.
Right. Be reflective, be intentional, and realize that action begets action, and action creates opportunity. So if all you're doing is mindlessly running around just doing a bunch of shit without any intentionality, I don't know, like,
that's right.
That's probably not going to take you in your favorite direction. And at the same time, just sitting and contemplating or dragging cells around.
Yeah. Or researching your way into paralysis, basically.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, but you're you're absolutely right. You can do actions that lead nowhere because there is no plan there,
Right. Well, it's funny because I want to talk about your book, and I published a book earlier this year called Improvising Adulthood, which uses improv as I think I'm the first person to ever think that improv had metaphorical applications for life and work. I'm not the first person, but no one else has applied it that I've seen to the lens of like, how do you lead your life, kind of. And anyway, my point is, the biggest message in my book is life is improv, and that very much related to what we're talking about. The key is to learn to discern what feels like a yes to you and what feels like a no, and to follow the yes. Those are the breadcrumbs. like on stage in an improv show, I say, you can't like pause the scene and be like, wait, I am going to go off stage again to invoke spreadsheets and make a spreadsheet of every funny, hilarious, creative, interesting choice I could possibly make, run it through the machine. And, you can't do that. You have to make a choice. But so it's about honing your connection to yourself so that in the moment in the improv scene or in the moment in life, you know which dots to throw out there
and which dots to follow.
Yeah. So how do you talk to me about how you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about like, how do you know, when, and I mean, I might go to an extreme that I don't necessarily recommend, but I will rarely say no to anything. So I say yes to everything. And it sounds so hokey, but like, it's kind of worked out for me, because
you have a really awesome, interesting, rich life from where I sit. So
yeah. And like, sometimes, I don't know, as sometimes it's a dead end, but like the more you say yes, the more like cool things will come to you for you to say yes to. It's like the action begets action. The yes begets better yeses,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe that. So talk to me about like how that's like, because you've made a lot of interesting choices, right? Like, I think you have such an interesting career, and I want to talk. And when I say career, I mean it in like a truly expansive sense, right? I don't mean you have like such an interesting 9 to 5. I mean like the work you invent for yourself and do out in the world is so meaningful and so unique and interesting. How do you? I mean, you say yes to things, but how do you I mean, do you truly say yes? Like if someone who seemed kind of dull was like, please come to my mixer at the Hilton, would you be like, yes? Like, really, is it unabashed yes? Or are you saying yes to the really interesting people you've already sort of attracted into your life?
Very good question, Amanda.
Thank you.
Because what led to like my total burnout in 2013 was when I said yes to literally everything, including the mixer at the Washington Hilton. Who knows, who I might meet there. Because every once in a while, you do go to a thing that you didn't really want to go to. And I was like, oh, I met this amazing person,
That's right.
So this is what I did around that time that I think really changed the trajectory of how I said yes. And that is, so a friend of mine wanted to become like an executive coach, and he was going through this training and he needed a guinea pig. So I'm like, well, I will do it.
Said yes.
Yeah. Right. He's like, can you be? And I said, yes. And so he helped me come up with a mission statement and 5 value statements. And that was in 2013. And to this day, I look at that and it still holds true. And it, that's why companies do mission statements and values, because it guides every decision. So anytime anything comes my way, I can look at that and be like, does it actually meet that mission? Does it fall within my values? And it works every time. And those values and that mission statement are so, embedded in my psyche and, my vibe, my energy that, I mean, I don't have to like go actually look at it all the time.
I'd be like, let me find this paper. What was my mission again?
Right. I have exactly. I have a little check box, I know it. It's in me. And so because of that too, like maybe that's why, I do a lot of really interesting things come to me, because they're like, oh, people don't consciously know, but like I give off this vibe of this mission statement.
Yeah.
That people will know, like, oh yeah, she'll like
that. I love
but
that.
I will say, even to this day though, like, so mostly that helps me to like winnow out things that are like, oh, I'm not so sure I should be doing that. But even to this day, I will definitely go to something where I'm like, I really have to push myself because I'm like, this is going to be boring. And I don't know, it happens enough that I meet somebody cool or have a great conversation that I think it's worth it to stretch yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yes, within your capacity.
Yes.
I think that, it relates back to this idea that I'm always coming back to of being curious instead of judgmental.
Yes.
Because you can sit on the outside of mixer at the Hilton, from someone who you think is dull and be like, I judge that you're a boring person and this event is going to be full of other boring people and blah, 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 blah. But what data, like, what are you basing that on? It's bias, it's judgment, it's fear, it's whatever it is. I love your open-hearted yes of like, I'm going to go and I'm going to find something like.
Yeah. Or I will find the one other person there who's there because they
and
they stretch themselves.
Exactly. And it makes me think of, I was having a conversation with my friend Tanya earlier this week, and she was saying that she's like, look, I'd always rather be at home on my couch. Like there's a part of me that would always rather be at home, comfy on my couch. And she's like, but when I've said yes to something, because then there's saying yes, and then there's actually following through on your yes, right? That's like a whole other bridge to cross. And she said, when I'm like, oh, I don't want to go, I make a deal with myself that I'll go for an hour. And she's very practical. She's a wonderful, practical friend to have. And she's like, I say I'll go for an hour because worst case, it's a shitty hour, but like, okay, out of my whole life, like, I can afford to waste one shitty hour. She's like, but I've never had in the end a shitty hour. Like giving myself permission to go for just an hour, more often than not, the hour comes and I'm immersed in a really interesting conversation and I'm not quite ready to go, So I love that too, of like your yeses can be like, you don't have to give 1,000% necessarily. Like you could say, sure, I'll try that and go and give it your best effort. And then after an hour be like, and now I'm going home to my couch or whatever. But like, at least then you've let, I think maybe curiosity win over judgment. You've brought in an open-hearted sort of like, let's see how this goes instead of deciding how it's going to go before it even happens.
Well, although you did say a word earlier that just reminds me, because like I am an extreme extrovert. And so, I will do 4 1-hour things in a night,
Oh my God. And somebody, I'm fainting.
So I do have to be very careful about capacity, which is the word you said earlier, because like I have a relatively high capacity, but that makes me sometimes it gives me the illusion that I have unlimited capacity. And even I do not have unlimited capacity. Even I will hit a point where I'm like, maybe 5 things in one night is just one thing too many.
Yeah.
Don't need to go for just 1 hour to that.
Yeah, that one I can be like, I've already spent 4 hours. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And I mean, it never ceases to fascinate me how we're all wired so differently. The last episode I recorded, my guests were Miriam and Venu, and Miriam reminds me energetically very much of you. Like she is just, I mean, she was like, I went to the gala and then I hopped the plane and then I, was at a breakfast this morning and then I recorded my podcast and like my nervous system starts to like palpitate at the thought of that pace. And yet, I don't know. I've always torn for myself about introvert versus extrovert because, my God, I mean, I'm an only child. I need my alone time. I need my downtime. My nervous system likes a slower pace. I'll read a job description and I'll be like, this sounds like fascinating work. And then they'll be like, must thrive in a fast-paced environment. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, because I do not thrive in a fast-paced environment. My brain works real hard all the time. I get a lot done in a day, but people rushing around with a sense of crisis all the time is enough to just shut me down. I don't know, but at the same time, I know people who really don't like socializing at all, ever. And I really I love doing this podcast because I love having conversations with people. Like I like to go to a party where I don't know people and meet interesting people. Like that's fun to me. As opposed to feeling like, oh God, how am I going to talk to that person I don't know? So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a textbook ambivert.
Yeah, there's like an introvert, extrovert, but you can be an introvert and not be shy. Like I'm an extrovert, like it's the whole energy thing. Like I get my energy from being around people or whatever. But I am an extrovert who actually is like kind of shy. So, I will go to a party and it takes me a while to actually have that first conversation because I'm like, oh, they hate me, But then once I do, then it's like, okay, yay, energy. But, you could still be an introvert, but really curious to talk to a stranger, which that's hard. That's really hard to do. But going back to, the thing is, like, I always find it interesting when, we have these podcasts and you're like trying to get give advice or get advice when you're listening or whatever. And, I'm just going to tell you what works for me. But like, at the end of the day, like, I just have to remind people, like, you just have to like know yourself. Like, that's why the mission, like, this thing is so.
Okay, so I want to talk more about that. Yeah. I want to know what your mission is. Would you share? Or is it private?
It's not private. I've published it multiple times.
I was going to say, I think it's on your website, right? Okay.
But I think, one of the core principles of my book, though, is this idea that it's the idea, like the ancient Greeks said, know thyself. Because like no advice is going to help you unless you can like pause in your life and know yourself to know what you need and what you want. So you can make your own decisions about what the path forward is. Like, my path just isn't going to work for you. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me, what you just said reminds me the We Can Do Hard Things podcast. The theme song, Glennon Doyle's daughter, Tish Melton, I believe, wrote and performs. And there's a beautiful lyric in it. They say, something to the effect of, stop asking directions to places they've never been.
Oh,
right?
Good.
Isn't like, it's like, and that's early adulthood for me, was like, how do I get there? How do I get there? How do I get there? And like, joy came from shedding that and being like, oh, nobody else knows what there is. Nobody else knows.
That is good.
Yeah, I love that.
So the mission statement, the Pink Line Project catalyzes the culturally curious to participate, innovate, engage, and conspire with passion, awesomeness, inspiration, generosity, and ingenuity. And then I had 5 value statements, which I'd love to share with you as well.
Please do, yes.
Inspiration, :
I love that.
I know. I came up with like 5 words, which is what Ken wanted me to do. And then I was like, well, but I think I should describe them.
Yeah. So because I'm a writer and I like words.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Inspiration. Surround yourself with extraordinary and creative people. Generosity. Give unconditionally and without any expectation of return. Curiosity. Combat intellectual stagnation with curiosity about everything and by exploring everywhere. Courage. Act according to what is true and authentic for you rather than what anyone expects of you. And finally, passion. Suck the marrow out of life and wake up every morning screaming at the top of your lungs.
Wow, that energy of that language. God damn. Oh, I fucking love it. And I mean, gosh, I'm your people. You've described.
I mean, of course you do, because like everything you've said so far, I'm like, oh, I've said that too.
Okay, so you read your mission statement, which I love, the culturally curious. That really stands out to me. And I want to ask, so when was it? Was it around the same time that you came up with the language of describing yourself as a social sculptor, or was that before that? Or
that came much later. That's much more recent. Because at the time, that was 2013. 12, something like that. And so I was still kind of figuring out, what is it that I'm trying to do? What is my mission? And what am I trying to achieve? Like, at that point, I was just doing things that I like to do. I like art and culture. I like being around interesting people, having conversations, So everything I was doing was just toward having more and better conversations, being around really cool people. That was just that was like a baseline ethos. But once I started to realize like how I could use art and culture, like the power, like the true power of that to transform not only myself, art transformed me, but also to create spaces for other people to be transformed. That's when it became this sort of mission in my life. And so the idea of being a social sculptor, literally sculpting social situations for people to engage with each other in these transformative ways, that I put a name to that much later. And it is kind of interesting, like when you put a name to to something like that, then people are like, oh, that must be official, I will now make grants to you because it seems like a real thing, but when I was just kind of flailing around, like it was like kind of a struggle. to get people, to convince people like this is a thing we should do.
Well, yes. I mean, gosh, a lot to say there, even just about the power of language, the power of naming things, the power of telling our stories. I mean, that's what you do by saying, I am a social sculptor. You're telling a story about yourself, and that invites people to into something, right? To step into that story with you. And then to get real meta, the funny thing is then what you do is create things for people to step into.
I'm really guided by, I'm guided by many people, thinkers out there, but one is the activist Grace Lee Boggs, who said, in order to transform the world, you have to transform yourself first, essentially. I'm slightly paraphrasing, but, and so I do want to transform the world. I do want to envision and imagine a better a place where all of us can flourish. But how do we get there? Like, it goes back to this idea of know thyself. Like, first, you need to look within and look at your own motivations and think about what are your talents? What are your limitations? What can you look within first? And so a lot of the sort of social sculpting I do is about asking people to pause and look first at themselves. Because like a lot of the sort of polarization and a lot of the rhetoric that's out there right now is people just yelling out how angry they are at everything and everyone on we're all doing it. And I'm like, maybe you might want to just stop there for a second and think about like what you're saying and why you're saying it and look inward first. And then maybe, you can say, then you have some standing to yell into the, I was about to say void, and it is truly a void, but maybe it's not a void if you're a little bit more intentional first. And that begins with yourself.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Because you do that with the work that you do. You create spaces for people to take that pause. And I think, God, the power of the pause, it's important. People don't pause in their lives, right? And we're not also raised to pause. I mean, at least not in ways that are baked in. I mean, we might have parents, or individual caregivers who instill that in us, but like culturally en masse, that is not, you're not raised in America going through the education system and absorbing the mainstream culture. It's not, all of that doesn't scream at you like, don't forget to pause and check in with yourself about why you feel the way you do. And
we're measured by our productivity, and people, I am very guilty of this, like measured by how busy you are. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm like, what are you busy with exactly? Like, what are you achieving with all this busyness that you claim? So I have been very guilty of this, and it's conditioned in me. So I have to really be conscious of being too productive sometimes.
Yes. No, gosh, I understand. I think a lot of us around our age are unlearning and older are unlearning a lot of conditioning from how we were brought up.
I touch on this a little bit in my book that I have just finished writing.
Yes.
So the book came about because in 2016, after that election, I was so upset by the results that I started inviting people who voted for Donald Trump to come to my house for dinner. And because I'm like, I was curious, I need to ask you some questions. And I want to ask face to face. Like, I don't want to read about it in some journalist's, third-hand account. And, the long story short, and I'm happy to go into more details, but that essentially, I kept doing it, and it essentially led to a national project where I went around the country asking people, what does it mean to be American? And then that led to many other amazing things that I was like, I need to write a book about this. But in asking people, what does it mean to be American? The theme of the American dream came up over and over. And also, as you said earlier, I just came back I've been gone for 3 months. I was living in Paris. And I like to travel. So anywhere I go, I always ask people, like, what do you think of Americans? I want to get outside perspectives. And I cannot tell you how many times people talk about the American dream. They say things like, it's the promised land. America is the promised land. This is where anything is possible, And it's so fascinating to me because we're in this country thinking things are being taken away but we know for a fact that not everybody has access to the American dream. Everything isn't possible for everyone. And so I've been really thinking about, like, what is this American dream? Like, I kind of know it. Like, I've thought I was, trying to achieve the American dream for a long time. And I realized, like, it is a myth, but it's also a thing that we should allow everybody to have access to, because it's kind of awesome. This idea that, like, if you work hard, you can achieve great things. Like, that should be possible for all of us. It's just not, it's just not. But okay, I have so many things to tell you, but I did a little research about the American dream. And turns out that phrase was invented by this guy named James Adams in like 100 years ago, essentially. He wrote a book called The Epic of America, and he coined the phrase the American dream. And in this dream, economic stability or economic wealth and accumulation was not the goal. It was about having economic stability so that you could achieve, like, your fullest and highest human potential. It was about dignity.
Yes.
It was about something greater than just getting more stuff, having a bigger bank account. And so, but that's what the American dream has become.
Yes.
Our lexicon, in our understanding of it.
Right.
A bigger house, more cars, more stuff. And so I'm trying to, like, rethink, like, how can we go back to this original envisioning of what the American dream is, but also, like, be more inclusive about it too.
Yes, please. And now I'm the one who feels like I have 1,000 things to say. One thing I want to pull out is you're talking about the American dream, and earlier you used the word imagine. And I thought, gosh, imagination is so central to the work that you do.
100%. And here's another little breadcrumb too, that I've been leaving for my book, which I hope will get published in about a year.
Awesome.
But imagination, like, a thing that I also go back to, one of the other great thinkers of our time is the author Arundhati Roy.
Yes.
And she wrote this incredible op-ed in the Financial Times early on in the pandemic, where I'll have to send this to you because I go back to
put it in the show notes.
Yes. She basically said the pandemic could be a portal to imagining a bigger world, a better world. Let's not go back to the normal. Remember how we used to talk about the new normal? And sadly, we did not do that. We did not walk through that portal into imagining a new world. We slammed the door shut, basically. And so, the way I'm trying, I finished writing my book, but I haven't actually finished the conclusion because I'm still struggling over this. But I've been thinking about this moment in history as a new portal, basically. And I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but, I do not like President Trump in any way, shape, or form. I think is a horrible human being. But if there's one thing we can take away from this moment is he tried to destroy everything we know. And, like, let's see that as another portal. We have a chance to walk through and create something better. I don't want to go back to the way things were before Donald Trump. I think there were so many flaws, and I think we have a chance to fix that.
Yes. Yes. So much has been exposed.
Yes.
And so much is broken. And, as devastating as the brokenness is, and all the pain, all the harm it's causing people is devastating. And in a moment of destruction, there's an opportunity for creation.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I don't want to be like, I want to be very clear. I don't want people to be harmed so that we can have this portal. Like,
oh no, I know. I understand where you're coming. No, but you're saying, it's happening. It's a fact. And so what we can shift is, do we look at it as, like, the end, or do we look at it as an opportunity to shift into something better ultimately?
Absolutely. And I think, I hate using the catchphrases and catchwords and buzzwords, but, like, we are people of privilege. Like, I am a person who is going to be totally fine when this is all over. And if I wanted to, I could just be like, everything, as long as everything gets back to normal, I'll be, fine. Yeah. But I don't want it to be that way. So, no. I guess what I'm trying to say is, those of us who have the privilege to be fine when this is all over, I think it's up to us to, like, to help create this new world.
Yes.
With all of us involved, because, like, it isn't fine for all of us. And And it's that
And it
whole,
hasn't been.
and it hasn't been. And that whole thing of like, when one person is suffering, I am suffering.
Amen.
So I feel that suffering, even though for me, like I just spent 3 months in Paris. Like I am not suffering.
Right. Well, and I love what I have been really wrestling with. One of many things that I've been wrestling with in the recent months is this idea of imagination shouldn't be a privilege.
Yes.
And dreaming shouldn't be a privilege. Right. And so, and so much of what we've been talking about is about like confronting myths and calling them out and telling truer stories. But, I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, well, someone, a single mom working hard, just like survive, like they can't stop and, they don't have the luxury of imagining how they wish things could be, right? It's like, I'm going from job 1 to job 2 to job 3. My kid's sick. I'm taking care of my sick. I'm in survival mode. Yes. And if we really, I think, want to create equity in this world, that person, like, we want to somehow give that person a way to pause, the pause that you were talking about, and an ability to dream and imagine, because otherwise the only people dreaming and imagining the future are the people with privilege, and we're creating, and so
we're creating more privilege.
Right. So we need this new American dream. How can we articulate it and manifest it in a way that channels true collective imagination?
Yeah, 100%. And, when I've been creating these social sculptures, especially like these big funders, they want to invite like, I don't know, the politicians or,
fancy people, influencers.
And I'm like, no. This is not what I'm creating this for. I am creating it for people who do not get to sit in these conversations. And I want to hear from, we cannot make policy for unhoused people without having unhoused people at the table. Like, this is silly.
Yeah. It's and infantilizing too.
I know what's best for you. Like, really, do you do not?
No, I really appreciate what you said about when one person suffers, we all suffer. I just feel that so deeply.
Yes.
And so, okay, well, I'm, Philippa, I feel like I could spend the rest, I would like to make a cup of tea and just keep talking to you for like 8 hours. Like that would be such a fucking delight. And, however, got an eye on the time. And so I want to make sure I ask you, and you've spoken to it in so many ways throughout this conversation, but I want to ask you what I ask everyone, which is, so this is a podcast for other people who give a damn. And it's funny, I framed it that way when I created the show, and part of me still believes what I believed at the beginning of this season, which is that there are some of us who are wired to, like, we just move through the world caring about other people with that sense that what happens to one of us happens to all of us, and that there are some people who maybe move through the world and just don't have that. They're not wired that way. They don't have that sensitivity. They are concerned about themselves. And they really never pause to think, what's it like for someone else, or how might this action affect the broader populace? The more the season progresses, the more that feels really judgmental of me. And gosh, I'd love to even talk about that with you in the context of like these conversations you were open-hearted and brave enough to have with Trump supporters.
Yeah. Well, look, I do want to pause with you for there, because I do think this is a really important piece to talk about, because it's so easy to be like, those people don't give a shit. And one of the very first things I learned from having these conversations with Trump supporters is, of course, they totally give a shit. These are not bad. They're not psychopaths. You have to be a psychopath to literally not care about other human beings. Like, that is the actual definition. And it's just that they care about different people than we do. So, I kept meeting people who were like, I adopted these, 5 siblings from Guatemala who had lost their everything, their entire families, and there was nobody to take care. Or I go to church and I helped build this house for my neighbor, like they're showing it in different people or different ways. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm not articulating that perfectly, but I just have to keep reminding myself that like they're caring about people differently than
Yes.
we're using our own lens.
Well, and what I mean, even when I talk about, oh, some people don't seem wired to care about other people, I'm almost holding in my mind less a picture of a Trump supporter, honestly, and more a picture of like liberal people I've known over the
Mm-hmm.
years who just go through their lives and it's like, go to my job, feed my kids. They care about their kids. They care about their spouse. You know, let's get a new couch. What are we going to watch tonight? No curiosity about like a broader world. Like they don't demonstrate a set. It's like a materialistic life, a materialistic, and that's like such a judgmental label. So I want to peel that back. But it's like, and I don't know. I don't know how to say it without being or sounding judgmental.
Yeah, I see.
But it's people who really are very focused, and maybe I can say this without judgment. I don't know if I can. People who are very focused on meeting their own needs and their immediate family's needs, and there just doesn't seem to be any curiosity about interconnectedness, any curiosity or about how the choices you're making have ripple effects on a or don't on a larger world.
Yeah.
Any thought about like, oh, the way I'm choosing to spend my time or earn a living, like, how's that netting out for other people?
Isn't that most people though?
I mean,
I don't know. I'm feeling very judgmental, to be honest. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm like an extreme extrovert. I will, like when I was in Paris, like if anybody happens to be coming through Paris and they're like, we're a Facebook friend, I barely know you or maybe don't know you at all, I will meet,
Yeah. Meet me at the cafe.
And as you know, like I've organized hundreds of conversations, thousands maybe. And I don't know, like my sense is like most people care at some level, whatever, but most people only care about themselves. And I sense that in the way we have dialogue. Like, oh, now I'm going to start sounding really judgmental, but I'm just going to say it. I can't tell you how often people just want to talk about themselves and they're just like, there is no give and take. And I just think that is a sign of like, people just care about themselves. And I don't know what to say about that other than I need you to care about something outside of yourself. And it comes through in dialogues.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to solve this one. I want to keep talking about it until we solve it, but I think we need to kind of let it sit there a little bit.
I think we can let it sit there. I'm also feeling very nervous about having that piece in the world.
We can take it out.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's like a part of, I actually think it's like a really important thing to really wrestle with.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But let's let my team take a pass at editing it in a way that's not like sensationalized or whatever. Like just
I leave it to you, but let's
being,
a bit.
Yeah, I think it's one thing for us to be vulnerable, and because I mean, part of it is also this pressure to feel like you're saying like the wisest and fairest and most inclusive thing at every turn. Right. And so, it's like when I call myself out for being too judgmental, I'm judging myself. I'm not just right. And then you start to wonder, well, what's the line? Like, obviously we don't want people, we know what can happen, the destruction that can come for people just being very unconscious in how they express themselves all over the place. And yet you can go so far trying to be conscious in how you communicate. I can go so far in being conscious in how I communicate that I can neuter or I can gloss over things or I can end up making it seem like I'm wiser or have things more figured out than I do. And so it's like, how do you allow space in public conversation for people to show their human frailty and show, like, yeah, sometimes I'm judgy and I'm working on it. And also maybe we all are sometimes. And I don't have to like get it exactly perfect, And so I think that's important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As you know, I don't have a podcast, but I write a blog, and I try to be as transparent as possible about my flaws and all that other stuff. So I do think that's important. But this is we could really talk for like 8 hours, because it does open up, the way people listen these days too, the way our society has started to reframe around like taking out things out of context, or like, I don't know, and just being more inflammatory. And I'm not trying to be inflammatory. Like, no, part of it is like, I actually care so much that I want you to care,
I know. Well, look, so I did such a lead up to my question that I ask everyone that I never asked you the question. So I'm going to ask you now, which is,
what's the question?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was trying to build suspense. You got to have some drama in here. So now everyone's, of course, I was going to say on the edge of their seats, but they're not, because if they've listened to any other episode, they know what I'm about to ask you, which is basically, what message is in your heart for other people who give a damn? Like people who are listening to this, and maybe you define that as everyone in the world. Maybe you define that as 3% of the world, but whatever that brings to your heart. When I say okay, other people who care about other people are listening to this, and it's a hard fucking time to be alive. And so what is something that's in your heart that you would share with those folks?
I'm going to share what I'm about to say, because I did just come from Paris, where I spent 3 months. And I didn't have to go to Paris to write a book. Like, I could have written it here. But I was really dealing with some emotional unraveling, and dealing with the things that were all emotionally being it feels like an emotional assault every day. And, so, it was partly just to get away from all of that, but it was partially because Paris is a beautiful place. Every corner you turn, it's beauty, beauty, beauty. You're just surrounded. Plus going to see art. I went to this amazing ballet at the Palais Garnier. And so even in the hardest moments of writing, when it wasn't just hard because I couldn't find the right verb, but because I was really tapping into some dark places. But then I would just be surrounded by beauty. And that is the salvation for me, is to be surrounded by beauty, to be constantly finding beauty everywhere you look. You don't have to go to Paris to see the beauty in the world. And again, it just sounds like such a cliche, but there are beautiful things in tiny places but you have to be looking. You have to get outside of yourself and be looking and observing in the world. And then I like corollaries, so the corollary to that.
I'm getting that about you. Now I know. I'm going to start thinking of you as Philippa Corollary Hughes.
That's why conversations with me can go on forever, because I'm always thinking of a new corollary. But I curated this art exhibit earlier this year called Fighting for Beauty. And that's what this book is going to end on, is I want to fight for a world in which we're surrounded by beauty, and that we get to, that person who works 3 jobs and has to take a bus between each job, and if they miss the bus, you're going to be an hour late to your job and might get fired. We all deserve to have beauty. And I want to fight for a world where we can all experience beauty in all its forms, because we all deserve it. And it makes us better, makes our lives better, makes the world better. So that's what I'm fighting for, is for beauty.
I love that so much. I
love talking to you, Amanda. This is amazing. Can we do it again?
Yes, we can. Absolutely. Please. Weekly. No, but yes. You and I could have our own podcast. We'd have quite a lot to talk about.
A corollary podcast.
We could call it The Corollary. Oh my God. And then a new podcast was born. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, for your spirit, for all of the beauty that you bring and weave throughout this world. And I'm so excited to read this book. It's going to be a feast. I just know it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And please take a few minutes and leave a review. That really helps the show find its people. Mighty Forces is produced by Amanda Hirsch and Haley Hatcher. The music of Mighty Forces was written and performed by Jordan Hirsch, aka my wonderful husband. Till next time, remember, you are a mighty force, and we're mightier together.